Braylon will be fine. He'll practice today.
And you've mentioned the struggles a little bit with some of the more veteran quarterbacks. How does Quinn Ewers maybe differ or be similar to Nussmeier and Dart?
Now you look at them, they're scary. You know, they're dangerous at wide out and running back out of the backfield. And Ewers throwing the football. Um, he has one of the fastest releases of guys I've seen. I mean, he can throw a bubble screen and it's out, it's halfway there, and you don't even see him throw it. You know, I mean, he's really, really talented. He got an extremely strong arm. Um, so there are some similarities there, and you know, what are you gonna do? You're gonna try to cover, obviously. You're gonna try to get to him. You're gonna try to move the point. They're good enough offensive line wise where you're going to have to send some guys to get to him because he has such a quick release. And then, therefore, when you do, you're going to have to be in some type of either zone three or man to man. And so we'll have to pick and choose our times there. But we have to mix it up on him, and we have to disguise better than what we have. And I think that goes back to your question a little bit. I think part of it is we've got to disguise our coverages better than what we have.
How about just a thought, coach, on a Sark team? What are a couple qualities that you feel like Sark teams tend to bring to the table?
Um, Explosive offenses. I mean, like I said before, the national championship one, he was OC at Alabama. I thought was the greatest called game I'd ever seen by an offensive coordinator. Uh, perimeter, perimeter explosiveness, and he uses his talent really, really well, and has plenty of it. But I just think the guy's a mastermind offensively, and he'll be a huge challenge with the talent that he has as well.
One follow up would just be you mentioned the history in your opening thoughts there, Hogs, Horns, Nixon coming, all that stuff. I mean, you've always been well aware of that. How relevant do you feel like Arkansas, Texas is today in terms of college football?
Well, I'll answer that like this. When we played them in the Texas Bowl in 14, it was like, and I hadn't been to the national championship game at that point, you know. I hadn't been to Georgia, then, but it felt different when we got off the bus and we were sitting there. There's two 6-6 teams, and it was electric, you know. And then when we come in here at that point, I think that was the largest crowd we'd had in several years, and the the rush in the field and all that kind of stuff. So um, you can just feel that rivalry. You can feel it from our people, and I don't know if I answered your question, but
So you mentioned Talen's, you think he's going to be good to go, but the way Malachi played against Ole Miss in the second half, does that maybe give you more confidence where if Talon isn't fully where he needs to be, that you could, go with him?
absolutely. Um, he did a great job. I mean, great job of throwing the football, throwing it early, very accurate, and ran over some people. And Malachi played extremely well, and uh, we're glad we have him, and have a lot of belief in him when he goes in the game, and that certainly that certainly helped from the other night too.
One more on the history from someone who's seen about 43 of these games. I'm wondering, when was your first one to see? Do you remember, like, was it on television? Had you seen the game ever before you were coaching here?
I don't think so. I think the first time I ever saw one was when we were in Texas playing in the Texas Bowl. To be honest with you, I don't remember um, watching it before then. I wish I could answer it different, but that's the truth.
And Sam, you mentioned yours a minute ago. Specifically, what really impresses you about him? And then follow up, Arch Manning. I mean, in this day and age, nobody like that hangs around to be a backup, but he did. What do you think first about Ewers specifically? What makes him really good, and then the quarterback dynamic there? Because Ewers was out for a little bit, Manning comes in. I mean, no, nobody has two quarterbacks like
I
that.
think he's got the confidence of Jackson Dart, that kind of type of confidence. I think he has a great belief in his O-line. You can just feel it. You can feel it on the film. And his wideouts are incredible. Running backs used as wideouts, bubble screens. So I think he has a lot of talent around him, but I think he has a lot of confidence, probably has since he was a young man. And but he's very accurate and got an incredibly strong arm. With Manning, I saw him make a play running to his left that they would have showed on Sports Center if it was Mahomes did it. But he just did it the other day in the game. And the touch on that pass and the accuracy running to his left was incredible. And, I'm sure it says him staying there. I'm sure it says something about his family. And he's got a family that certainly has had a lot of success. And so I'm sure they're helping him with some of his decisions and to stay nowadays and do that is a notable achievement or a notable accomplishment for a guy to do that now, especially a guy with his type of talent.
I guess you look at this both two different ways, but this is the fourth SEC team. So everybody that comes into play in favor, the fourth SEC team that's ranked, and I guess the third that's like top 10.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the league's really good, a lot of good teams in the league, and the great thing this year is you've seen teams unranked being able to beat teams that are ranked high. Vanderbilt's win, certainly our win against Tennessee, and but it's people that aren't in our league, they think, well, we can go beat so and so one time. Well, you might can, but you just said it. I mean, this is our fourth or fifth or whatever ranked team that we played, and or sixth or whatever it is, and yeah, and uh, it's a gauntlet, and you have to stay healthy and you have to play well each week. And if you don't, as we saw 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago now, if you don't play well, you can get embarrassed, and that's how good the league is. And so we're in it because that's where we want to be and that's where we belong. But it's a difficult league, certainly is for everybody. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of really good teams with 2 losses in the league, and that says something about the SEC.
And you've been given a countdown clock on your hip to the extent that you can. Is that like a cumulative injury, or did you have one specific injury? And what's the countdown at now?
Well, my hip, I found out about my hip about 150. Well, once I get to surgery, about 135, 40 days ago, and it just went out, and so I found out I need to get a new hip, and it was at a point in time where it was so close to the season starting that I just didn't feel like I could do it. And as it's gone on, it's gotten sore and sore. I've got I'm bone on bone, and I've got a chip. I've got a broken hip, and which is it is what it is, sore. But as soon as we get through with the Missouri game, between that and the postseason, I'm gonna get a new hip.
What do they tell you about the rehab time? Were you back on your feet during practices?
Yeah, I think that I'll be able to walk out of the surgery, and then I should be. That first week after the Missouri game is kind of a dead week for us because the kids are in finals, or it's the last week of school, I guess. And I wanted to have it where I could move around pretty good by the time that the portal opened, because it's very, very busy. You can sit down and do it, but it's easier to stand up and move around a little bit. But that's really the only time. I just didn't feel like I could get it done before the season and be effective. And but it's sore. Tom, you can't ever get off of it. You can't set off of it. You can't sleep off of it. You obviously can't walk off of it. So anybody's had, bone on bone hip, um, knows that it's irritable and it's hard to sleep and those things. But I've made it 130 something days of it, and I can make it another 19, 20, whatever the number is. It's 22. If he's asking.
You got other guys on the team, obviously from Texas, Andrew and Talon, of course, and Jalen, Brad, Landon.
You're
Any of
about
those
to set
guys?
the captains for this week.
Yeah. Or have those guys said anything about the opportunity to play Texas and their home state?
They haven't this week. They did in the summer, when we took them down to the SEC media and all that, of course it was in Dallas, but it's a big deal to, whether the university offers you or not a scholarship. I think that has something to do with it too. You're always trying to prove somebody wrong, if they didn't offer you a scholarship and but I think anytime you play some team from your state, it's a big deal, and obviously the kids know it's a huge rivalry.
A lot of nutty tiebreaker scenarios for the SEC with no divisions. I'm curious, have you had any discussions with other coaches around the league about the first year without divisions, or just what your thoughts have been on this kind of new generation era?
I really have not. I mean, if we were closer to in it, I would, but I haven't. I don't know how it's all going to play down. There's a lengthy list of how you can get to who's going to play in the championship game. Hopefully, the head-to-head will be the key reason of why someone's playing, why somebody's not. But I really haven't had a lot of discussion on it.
Okay. The SEC is still trying to look and figure out what they're going to do with the schedule in the future, and there's a lot of talk of a 9-game schedule. Is Texas a team you want to see permanently on the schedule just because of the rivalry, or is it one you want to avoid because they're Texas?
Well, our rivalries, we got Missouri, we got a boot for LSU. We've got a freaking something else for A&M. We got plenty of rivalries to sit here and say, oh yeah, I want to play Texas every year, but then who are you going to trade them for? LSU, you're going to trade them for, you understand what I'm saying? So I think the way that they did it before was that we could get a home and home with everybody in the league. If you were here for 4 years, if you were a 4-year student and you played for us for 4 years, you get a home and home with everybody in the league at an 8-game schedule. To go 9, in my opinion, would be ridiculous. I mean, you see what's going now. I mean, you got two lost teams trying to get in the playoffs. It wasn't broke before. I mean, we were playing for the national championship all set for last year forever in our league. And to me, 8's plenty. And then had to figure out exactly how to get to the championship game. But we don't need 9. I mean, everybody be limping into the postseason play. And the other thing too is I think it's something about college football, and you go out and play somebody that you never played before, as in we're going to play Notre Dame next year. And there's no way in the world you're going to schedule 9 SEC games and Notre Dame. We might, but we shouldn't. I mean, by that time you're playing the playoffs is what you're doing. And so I think most guys in the league would say 9 is would be too many.